to you today because of to achieve continuous growth in his business in very, very challenging conditions. He is not only a strong performer in business, he is also a devoted father. Jason enjoys camping, hunting, and fishing with his family. His son recently graduated and is getting ready to start college, and he has a daughter that is off at college already. Jason is respected and loved by his team. He is consistently driving results. He strikes an admirable balance between his personal and professional life. When I first took over the Vancouver district, Jason's office was right next to mine. And every day before I'd want to go home, I had to check and look over at Jason's office. And without a doubt, he'd still be in there working. And I'd always have to joke with him and say, I can't leave until you do. But in all seriousness, that dedication is just one example of his commitment to his agency that he brings every day. Jason is an outstanding individual, and I truly appreciate him. Please help me welcome Jason Nichols. All right, Jason, why don't you kick us off? Tell us kind of where you come from and how you got in the country.
Sounds good. Can you hear me? Just make sure.
You are good.
Good. All right. Well, first off, I know there's a lot of tenured reps in here that I look up to. So I don't know if I'll be able to teach everybody something, but hopefully I can pull something out that you guys used to do that you kind of forgot about. And maybe it's just a reminder. And then for the new reps, hopefully get you a new nugget or two as well. So I've been with Country for about 17 years. I actually came from the construction side of things. So I was in the AV world, which what we did was I actually did product management, sales, and system design for a company that did custom home theaters and home automation in more high-end type homes. And then why I changed careers, back in 2008, the market was starting to shift a little bit. So something we did as a company is usually in October, we'd meet with builders and kind of forecast what the next year looks like for them, because then we could almost figure out kind of what our workload was going to be. So a lot of our production builders, they were doing 500 to 800 homes a year back prior to 2008. And then our custom builders that were doing multi-million-dollar homes were usually doing 2 to 4 a year. So in 2008, just prior to when we were forecasting, some of those production builders were like, we're only doing about 250 homes, so over half of what they were projected to do. And then a lot of the custom builders had nothing on the books. So I personally saw something coming. I was right under the owner of the company, so there wasn't too much room for advancement. So I was looking for jumping into something different. And during college, I almost jumped into this career because I like the financial aspect of it. But didn't, because I was told I was going to work lots of nights and weekends, which is what I did not want to do, which is what I started doing anyway. I just wish I would have did it sooner, to be honest, jumping, but it's been one of the best things for me, switching careers. Then kind of early years, I guess, just coming from that construction side, we all have these challenges with Country. When I came on back then, 17 years ago, we were really good with general contractors. It was what I heard. So I was excited to come on because that was my background of working with those. And as soon as I got through training, Country pulled all the lines from the general contractors. So I was like, oh, I didn't know where I was going to start. But as far as the grind, I started back then working from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. And not too much has changed now, other than I've got a team that can put some of that workload on. And then back when I started, our manager at that time, he actually required us to have 5 appointments a week. And so he had a sales training every Tuesday. And if you didn't have 5 sales trainings for the following week, he kind of expected you to be there on Saturday to set those appointments up, which looking back, that would set some good groundwork and some habits. So to this day, I still probably hold quite a few meetings each week. Also, I had a pretty large natural market, so that fed me for about 2 to 3 years. So I didn't have to really do a lot of seminars or shows or things like that to generate some business, which now things have changed a little. I did purchase, as most of us probably have done, life leads and mortgage data cards, bought PC leads, all back in the beginning. And then my 3rd year, I started networking. So I started, which is not what the comfort level was. So I poked around a little bit with the chambers, some different leads groups. And then I ended up finding BNI, which some of you may be in. that's probably been one of the best things for my business. I've been in there for 14 years out of the 17. And that's helped a ton, just keeping workflow throughout the years, even when we slow down. I dabbled with a few booths and shows. Again, that's just not my style. I worked for some, not saying it's a bad thing. I don't know if you guys have heard of Brian Buffini. He's a big realtor guru. I went through one of his trainings with a buddy of mine who's a realtor. He got me in for free on that one. But one of his things, which changed my marketing years on, was he was talking about realtors doing Yelp, and they're spending maybe $4,000 a year and then not getting any referrals. And so he had a different strategy of taking your best COIs out to lunch, doing little pop buys, versus spending that big dollar. So I kind of look at that as shows for me that ROI just doesn't turn the referrals around for the time spent and money into those. I'd rather just stop by a mortgage office, drop off a coffee here and there, or take them out to lunch. Those generate way more referrals for my time, and are much more productive and better referrals, in my opinion. But again, shows are bad, and I'll get to that. So there are some events that I've done this past year that turned into some good referrals. And then kind of back in the beginning of my career, I converted. I set a goal to convert before the 5-year mark that we had. So I did that in 4 years. And then we all have struggles, but I'd say that 5th to 6th year after I converted, one thing I still do today is I keep score every day. So after I converted, I was keeping score. As I mentioned, our manager was a stickler at that time. Once I made it, I kind of was like, whew, and I kind of stopped keeping score. In that 5th year, I'd say my business slowed and stayed pretty flat. So I was getting discouraged that 5th or 6th year. And then we're getting offers from other companies to jump ship, which I felt if I could do it there, I could do it here. So just kind of start refocusing. And then if you guys don't have somebody to vent on or share with, beginning of my career, I had a couple mentors. And when I kind of went back to my first started, before I even started with Country, I asked who their top 2 reps in this area were. And at that time, it was Bob Cosgrove and Tim White. They were here over 20 years. So my goal with that was to, one, find out if they loved their career after 20 years. Because if I was going to jump into something like this, I wanted to be long-term. And then I also wanted to kind of see how they're running their business and what they're doing. And I picked Bob as my mentor, mainly because he had a big team and seemed to run pretty smooth. And he was gracious enough to take me in. So one of my discouragements, I guess, which almost set me for a little frustration, is he was open enough to show me his whole PC summary of what he was bringing in on the PC side. And I would say I wanted that from day one. So looking into the career 5 years in, I was so far off from that number, projecting, say, 15 years out. And then Kirby McClanahan, some of you may know him, but he was our manager, became our manager at one point. So he started changing the mindset of that whole keeping score at just units back then, which I guess you could say PIF today, and started looking at changing my mindset of just revenue, bringing in at least a minimum of 2,000 in commission per month. And so once I started focusing more that direction and running more of a business than just chasing units, that changed the whole career for me. So I think Kirby for that one. And then I had another mentor that gave me the 3 keys to success. So I'll get to that here in a little bit. And then it's kind of in our career, some of you may know this too, but I met with one of my best buddies who's a multi-million-dollar producer in a mortgage industry. But he said in our career, the first 7 you're broke. The second set of 7 years, you're kind of starting to make a little money. And then the third set, you're kind of making enough to get by, or more than you need. And I kind of see that with, if you're looking at most of us in the business, if you're working hard and staying with it, that 20-year mark, you're doing all right. I just say be patient and stick with the game. And then all the mentors I've had, just anybody in business really, have taught me to work hard and always show up, to build a team and to write it. And in our industry, Bob always told me write enough life insurance to stay out of trouble, but focus more on the P&C side, just because that's what pays our bills. That's kind of been my strategy all along. And then kind of, I'll get to some of the bullet points of how I get referrals. and prospect and how I cross sell and some of the challenges I ran into. But what drives me, Josh mentioned I have a family, so for me, financial freedom is what drives me. So that's helping the kids and family for us create memories, taking trips, vacations. My daughter's in college right now, so when I first started, I didn't have that goal, but this has led to where I'm able to fund both my kids' college in full. So that's important to me. And then leaving a legacy. And then I just don't want to retire with a different lifestyle. So I want to be able to carry that on. So just making sure we have enough put away for those kinds of things. As far as growth, just to pick on the last 3 years, we've been all through some struggles. But in 22 to 23, I ended up growing about 300K in premium. And then from 23 to 24, it's about 700 grand. And then last year I grew almost 800 grand. And this year I had a goal to hit about $1 million. But with these struggles we're all having, we've had rate increases. We've had, in Washington, they sent out a lovely letter with this home conversion stuff we've been going through. But in Washington, that letter goes out with bullets saying that country is non-renewing you as a client and that we are pulling out of Washington state. It's an ugly letter. And so that's caused its own little variables of people just thinking we're dropping them and chopping before we can get to them. So I put some systems in place to help with that. But and then with apartments, I've had a ton of business in the apartment arena. Washington's exiting that entire market. And then as you all know, we put caps to on certain apartment complexes. So with those, I've lost a ton of premium this year. So my $1 million in growth, I'm probably targeting closer to $500,000, which is a little discouraging, but it's still growth. And then kind of the grind, I still work a ton. And like I said, I'm just able to shift some of that to the staff. So they're helping with some of that load. I do a lot more networking just with BNI. And so I don't buy any leads anymore. I do a lot of pop buys. So kind of what I mean by that is I will take mortgage brokers, their whole office coffees. I will drop off lunch. And I just, if it's a CPA office that I network with,
Jason, we lost you. Give him a second. Jason, you want to try to jump out and jump back in, see if that'll correct it? Everybody on the call too, feel free to throw any of the questions that you have, Jerry. As soon as Jason gets back on, I'll bring up the question that's there. Just give it 1 minute. There we go.
I don't know. So I'm talking about the challenges. So for me, challenges I had early on in the career, and then even still sometimes today, is just personal mental roadblocks. Just trying not to spend out of my own pocket, especially things like life insurance and financials. And then just anything is possible. So kind of not setting those barriers and as far as goals go. One of the big challenges that I had early on in the career and then today, but time management's a big one. So early in the career, I feel we just have too much time on our hands. And so that it's easy to get distracted and not stay focused. Now I'm busy enough, I have to say no a lot, which is not a bad thing, but I just have to be really deliberate and intentional on what my priorities are to make sure I'm staying focused, getting the right things done. Early in my career, I thought this was funny, but just thinking everyone is going to switch up and sign up with me. So one of the discouraged things was tickets. So I'd go, one of my big ones, the first client I met with was my sister and brother-in-law. They wanted to join, but they had a ticket or two, which threw them out of our rates. And I needed that unit at that point. So my encouragement to this day, those come up super fast in that 3 to 5 year time frame. So I put every ticket and accident on my calendar. And as a team, we just make sure we revisit those, whether it be a prospect or current clients, making sure we're rewriting those. And then another one is just having young kids. Mine are getting older now, but just getting pulled different directions. So making sure you have that good life balance. I was coaching for a long time too with my son with soccer. So that took a lot of time, which maybe I had to make sure I had good communication with my team and just in relationships as well. So just giving one tip on what my wife and I do is we try to have a date night every month, and then we do huddles is what we call them, but every Wednesday and Sunday for about 15 minutes, we'll just touch base to catch up on the week, confirm our goals that we're on track for, and then just plan out the week and the following week. So I think it's more just having those few little touches. And another struggle is just finances, paying for staff and overhead, making sure that all Rubik's Cube that we have is working. And then as all of us are struggling through contract changes over the years, rates. Mine was losing apartments in some of these commercial buildings. That was a big hit this year. And then just all these system changes we have. I talked about the home conversions. I know a lot of agents just sit there and don't jump on things, but when we had the AMP issues and then these home conversions, we're now calling every single client, just giving them a heads up what's coming. It's taking a lot of extra work, but we're using it as an opportunity to thank the client and then also trying to cross-sell across that. Or it's forcing us to call them, but it's helping them not walk away thinking they're getting dropped. And then just staying positive. I don't know how much this helps for you guys, but I walk in the office every day with a smile and I can just see my whole staff, like they lift out of their chair. Just trying to have a positive attitude, which is hard in our world today, but I would say do your best of coming in and just smiling every day. Your clients will feel it too.
I completely agree with that one. I think that as you set the tone within your agency. So if you come in with a positive attitude, you can control the things that you can control. So I think that's an awesome one. I did want to show you a question. So Jerry was asking, what is the best place to buy leads? And then why did you quit? Do you have any advice today on any of those strategies?
I don't know where everybody's at, but we were using, I think it's LeadCo for the mortgage data cards, if I remember. That's who I was buying those from. And then I don't know where to buy the PC leads now. When I started, we had a company called Boulder Leads. So I was buying a ton of those for almost every zip code I could get a hold of. I'm not real sure on the lead side where to buy them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then kind of transitioning, what would you attribute your success? Obviously, some pretty solid growth, very continuous over the last few years. Where would you attribute that success?
So the first one is just I have that team now, so I couldn't do it without them. So and I have that as one of the talking points. But my first assistant, I didn't hire until I was probably 10 years in, which was almost too late. I'd say get one sooner than later, but only because it's really helped my business over the last few years, having solid teams and help. I also work with a business coach. I'm just picking on Tom Brady, but Tom Brady knows how to throw a football really well. But every athlete has a coach to fine tune their skills and just keep them on track. You could use your manager or some coworker as an accountability partner. My big thing was just making sure I had an accountability partner to make sure I was always on track. So my business coach and I, we were meeting every week. Now we meet every other week, but it's just to check in. He pulls a lot of goals out, and then as we all know, we don't implement things. So it's just having that on the forefront. And like I said, you could use your manager or whoever. I just picked an outside person just so there's, because I just know like coworkers I've worked with, you start feeding on each other and sometimes it turns into negative conversations. So just having that coach has really pushed and helped keep a positive attitude and stay on track. So that's a big one for me. That's helped a lot over the last few years. And I would just say pay attention to other people. There's people in your corner trying to help too. Just being open to listening to that. And the big one's keeping score, like I talked about. And I do that with my coach. We keep score constantly on where everything's at. Every day, the first thing I do is open up that monthly report, making sure we're growing. And something I do is on a board, we just have a whiteboard and we put on there the start of the month what we're down. So if we wrote 30 fifths last year, we know those are going away for this month. So we just put like a negative 37. And then as we lose a client, we'll put a negative down. So we know we have to make that up. And then we're just trying to at least stay more positive and keep growing. So I think putting it on a whiteboard, it keeps everybody on the same page and keeping score. My big thing is just showing up every day. And if I had to pick a word, it's consistency. So just make sure whatever you're doing, whatever you're focusing on, just being consistent in that arena. So mine is those Popeyes, like going and just meeting. And right now, mortgage brokers are slow. So I just feel doing the habits of going and meeting them, dropping by. Those are the big things to get out there. So I mentioned the 3 keys to success. I bring that up. So when I first started, I had a mentor tell me this. So the 3 keys, number 1 is get out and see the people. Number 2, get out and see the people. And number 3, get out and see the people. And I can tell you if I don't go visit a mortgage office or a CPA or an attorney's office, this referrals slow down. But the minute I go out there, I guarantee that week I'll have 1 or 2 referrals from them. It's just getting out and seeing them. So I have a little story. So this came from the AV world when I was doing the construction stuff. We worked with a lot of builders, and builders are programmed to say no. They're working with, they get calls from 20 plumbers, 20 electricians, 20 framers, all these different people calling them want their business. So they literally just say no when they pick up the phone, even if they don't mean to. So there was one builder I worked for, had a good relationship with, but I asked if he had anything going besides the one project I was quoting out. He said no. So I purposely went and dropped that estimate for one of these big projects we were working on off at his office. And at his front desk, to the right, he had this huge plan box. He probably had 15 different plans sitting in there. So as we were going through his estimate, I looked over, I said, what are these right here? He's like, oh, while you're here, can you, quote out these 5 projects? So he gave me 5 more plans, which was kind of that aha moment of just being in front of people. They'll more likely to give you work than just calling and asking for it. That's kind of as far as my attributes to success, I guess. What you're asking is, it's really just getting out and seeing all the people. I kind of getting right into how I get referrals. So number 1, we take care of all of our clients the best we can. So if they call in, we're answering the phone. Nobody usually goes to voicemail. And then we try to turn those quotes around within that same day. We don't let those sit. So I really feel taking care of your clients first and foremost, so they don't go out the back door. And then I do a lot of those Popeyes, and I'm bummed that the company took away that co-op plan, but I still drop off a lot of gift cards to offices. I do coffees. I'll take crumble cookies or snacks out to them. And then, like I mentioned, lunch I'll bring into the office because they're busy, so they always appreciate a lunch. And one of my big tips is always take care of that processor that's working for them. I can't tell you how many I've had. I have a handful that left certain firms as a processor, and now they're their own mortgage broker, and they called us up to help, do all their binders and things like that. So taking care of the whole team, not just the one mortgage broker, is big. And how I get them is I'll go and I try to prospect to take them to lunch, and that might take time and just being consistent with the office of doing drop-bys. But then a big one is send them a referral. So if there's somebody that I want to spearfish, I'll actually try to meet with them and find out who they're looking for, and then I'll send them a referral for like a mortgage, which then they feel guilty and hopefully start working for you, but that works.
Jason, we have a kind of question that it kind of ties into a lot of the COI development. Do you have any advice for maybe some of those agents that are trying to kind of break through that barrier with maybe mortgage brokers that already have that insurance agent? How are you finding your way to build that relationship?
I actually have a good one for that. So when I was in construction, as I mentioned, builders have always had their top guy, and it was hard to break into that market. So just using that analogy, and you could use that with your mortgage broker or CPA or whoever you're working with. Most builders always have two framers. They always have a backup because the framer gets busy and they can't get that project going for them. So they always have a backup. So I always just look at having to be in the backup for them. Like, hey, there's that time that you might need a binder and your guy's too busy. Just keep me in mind. Or go in as like a flood expert, or we have earthquake endorsements over here, but just trying to go in and be that earthquake specialist, but more so the flood. We have some flood areas that we'll get referrals from because people just don't do it. So I try to come in as like the expert and say, hey, you're going to run into that flood client. Just keep me in mind. And that might be that second backdoor in. And then also things that I do is you're getting requests for binders from other mortgage officers. So use that as one to maybe go and hand deliver if you can, that binder, and make a relationship with the person that sent you a binder that you're not even working with is a big one.
And I think that as rates are looking at changing, I think that's going to happen. I think we'll see a flood of that if the Fed ends up dropping the rate. We had another question.
Oh, go ahead. Go with that.
And we sent another question in there, essentially asking, how are we with CPAs versus mortgage lenders? Do you work a lot with CPAs to refer business?
I try to, and mainly for them, it's the commercial side.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Let me see if I can get Jason back on here. All right, Jason, if you can hear me, try to click it again.
There we go. It cuts me
And
off.
you're back.
Brings me up. As far as CPAs, I usually try to prospect with them for more of the commercial stuff. But they also get to see everybody's assets. So just with people with multiple renters or rental policies, or rentals, I try to go and prospect that we're good on the rental side. And usually I would say if you can network with the CPA, they're one of the best because usually that particular field, everybody trusts. So I almost don't ever get into a price issue when I have one real solid CPA that sends stuff over. It's almost a slam dunk every time he sends a referral. Just because they're like, oh, this person said to use you. So I'm using you.
And I know my time, I always loved it because they have every bit of information. They know every vehicle that's owned, right? Because they're writing everything off. They usually have the insurance documents. A lot of times they're the ones that are actually cutting the checks to the insurance company. So definitely a great spot for those commercial clients.
And some of those, going back to that mortgage broker, part of how I got into, and I'll show you kind of what I do is I have one guy who always sends a gift to his clients. So I created this kind of green bow type deal, but Cutco knives. And then what he does is he has a knife, he uses puts his logo on there. So it's Orient Team is what he uses. So what I pitched to him is, hey, every deal we close, I will personally go drop your knife off for you. And the reason for that is usually I'm needing photos is how I pitch it. So going out and doing the photos, but it gets me in front of the client, and then I can hopefully cross-sell auto and life insurance at that time. But we're getting in that Amazon world where people don't want to talk to you. So two things that we're doing is, one, I'm delivering this. I've kind of worked out some mortgage brokers. I'll drop off a gift basket for them. They're just kind of pitching that to them that, hey, do you do a gift basket? What if I paid for that for you and dropped it off for you? I have a dollar amount I have to stick with them, but I would help cover some of that cost and drop it off to you. They Cutco knives, this guy pays for his own and I just go deliver them. And then something we've done as an office, so if you guys are looking for mortgage brokers, there's the ones that are constantly doing binders and new purchases, but try to also find one that we've had a lot of success this year that's floated us as builder risk policies. We have one mortgage broker, that's his niche. So he does a lot of builder risk type loans. And so with the market, maybe purchases aren't happening for us, people buying a home or moving, but the people are building in our area. So that person sent us quite a few. But what was happening with that is we were having lower retention because we're getting this builder risk policy. They're moving in, they're busy. We're, finding the house at the end, and then we weren't getting cross sales on auto. And then down the road, we lose them. So again, going back to what I'm doing now is every home we require me to come out and do photos. So that's kind of old school. We used to do that, and then now with cell phones, I was having everybody send us photos. It's too easy, and that kept me in the office. But now that I've got a team that can write the business, I'm personally going out and doing the photos. But it's getting me in front of that client to hopefully cross sell and then build a little rapport. So they're not when we're finding that they're sticking around more now that they know we're here. And then going back to Cutco, I do have a few that I have with Country's logo on them. So like a marketing piece. So if like I like delivering stuff on the weekends. So on a Friday, I'll do that as my marketing day. So if someone's did a big knife case with me, I'll go drop them a nice Cutco knife. And the whole reason for that is I'm trying to buy some subconscious marketing. So usually they're having a party on the weekend. And if you do like a cheese spreader, usually they're having wine and cheese on the weekend. Hopefully that knife is coming out on the counter. Or at least they're seeing my name as they're searching for a knife for their party. And it just buys that subconscious peace of mind. And then other things I'll try to do is, you can call it a power hour, but I love Fridays just calling clients. Just spend an hour, pick a handful of clients and call them and thank them for their business, and then just see what they're doing on the weekend. That's it. They love to talk about what they're doing. And then again, I'm just putting that in their head so that when they're out, hopefully they're talking about me. If they hear somebody complaining, those are a few things. And then I also do Christmas baskets to all my COIs around Christmas time. And then large contractors, I'll go by and drop stuff off. And then one of my marketing pieces I did this year, which worked out really well. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's a little candy box that I made out of the Milwaukee toolbox. So it's the ones that have all the compartments. One, they can give it out to their staff because everybody loves gadgets like that. I had one, I dropped it off. The owner called and thanked me, and they're using it as their candy basket now in their front office. But one of my big success stories this year is, and I just wrote it, I dropped this off to one of the HVAC companies I wanted to get. That you usually can't get past gatekeepers. So the reason I do this box is it helps get me past some of those gatekeepers. And then you can even go fill it up back up with candy as the year goes on. But by dropping one off, this HVAC guy goes, hey, my renewal is actually up. I need you to help quote it out. So I handed the guy for a while and he didn't pull the trigger. And then I said, I don't do a lot of events, but I love events that schmooze our clients or our COIs. So here in Oregon, we've got Country kind of sponsored with the Portland Blazers. So what I did as a strategy, and I love doing this, is I took two of my HVAC companies that are current clients, and I invited two that I wanted to get to that event. And one of them was the one I dropped the Milwaukee basket off on. So he came to the event. At the end of that event, he's like, I need you to quote my stuff. And I got all his stuff, but that turned in, we just placed it. It's about $93,000 in premium. And then that added about 25 PIF this last month, just in that one deal.
So definitely worth one of those baskets. We actually have Heather asking, can you show the basket again? We didn't get a very good view of it. I've seen it. It's actually,
it's got some snacks and stuff in it. But I bought these at Home Depot. But I want to say they're $40. Pop in probably a little more if you throw some stuff in it. But if you buy them in bulk, and I found this out in there, I probably bought like 15 of them. And then I think that dropped them down to maybe $25 a pop. And I told my wife, because she was with me, I'm like, these are on sale, go grab a bunch more. But I didn't realize like Home Depot has a contractor pack. So once you buy over a certain amount, they discount them down. So if you're going to buy some, I'd buy them in bulk.
That's awesome. And a great way to I think that's awesome with the Blazers and kind of bringing out not only clients, but prospects.
And then I have one other networking thing. So BNI has been huge to me. And so doing Popeyes and taking people out for lunch and stuff like that. That's way better use of my time getting those referrals. But another is insurance agents. We're all struggling as an industry. So I have two brokers that I work with. And I don't know about your area, but one of them is Biggs Insurance here locally. And then Brown and Brown is all of it. But those two firms, they don't want to touch anything under 70,000 in premium in the commercial arena. So I'll gladly take those lower hanging fruits that they're trying to get rid of. And they secretly have been kind of non-renewing some of those individuals because they're too low a premium. And then just like we're dropping all of our apartments. We've got some commercial buildings we've been getting dropped, just different facets of things. And so, and then I've got referrals for businesses we can't take. It's not in our appetite. So just sending those to those brokers then returns another referral back to me. I've got farmers reps that we've sent stuff back and forth to. In our area, there's a lot of fire issues. I'd say high fire risk areas. Some of these companies aren't rating in. And so, again, networking with some of these and building relationships with them and taking care of their clients, letting them know I'm not going to cross-sell their particular client. But I just wrote another $8,000 premium on a home that a farmer's rep couldn't write. So he said, and it's a funny story. It's actually one of their district managers that I'm helping. We just placed that policy. But I'd say network with a bunch of insurance agents from different carriers.
Tons of value there. And then when you're looking within your own book of business, do you have a strategy on how you cross sell? I know that's essentially most of life sales that we have within the company. I mean, it's a big part of the business. You know, how do you mind your book of business?
Well, as far as staff, I can say Michelle was my first assistant. She was more behind the scenes service. She flat out told me she did not want to sell, which I was okay with. I just needed help doing the back end paperwork. But she is my billing specialist and helps with all that intake stuff. And then she does take, you know, if someone's adding a car or taking one off, binders, things like that, she takes care of all that stuff. But now over the years, she's built a relationship with clients and she has no problem asking now for those cross sells. So it's just been working with them. Of anybody who calls in, if we only see a home or a renter's policy or just an auto, they're all trained to say, hey, where's your auto? Where's your home? Where's your life? We see you don't have it. And that works out better than me doing it because it's not salesy. And even though I mean be salesy, the client doesn't feel that from them and they're more willing to give them stuff more than they do me at times. So I'd say if you have staff, just making sure they're all asking where everybody's stuff is at that we don't have. I've always over the years, and you might have your own staff do this, but I do IFRs constantly, and now they call them CARs, but I probably have 2 of those a day, every single day of the week. So that helps. One, I have the home office call on those. And like I said, you might have your staff member do that. I just prep every client we gain or add, you know, to our team. And then current clients, I just tell them I have a team that's going to call and set up a car review with them. So they're prepped from the very beginning. I even let them know it's usually a home office personnel, but they're, you know, helping set up our reviews for us. That way we're here to help better serve you. We just don't have our team calling on those. And it's free right now. So I just utilize that as an extra staff member. And then I prep them to you if we just talked or we already did a review, you can deny that review this year, but just know next year you're going to get the same call. And then, so like I said, I get 2 a day on those. I've had to slow the home office down because there's times I was getting 4 or 5 a day. But for me, it's retention. The biggest one is I don't want them slipping out the back door. So, and then all of mine I do in person or at least do a Zoom call with. Very few do I just do a phone over the phone with them. I usually send them a link and do a virtual meeting so I can separate myself from a Progressive or Geico. I can share my screens and really walk them through stuff. I feel that's helpful. So all the cars, if you're not doing reviews, I definitely do that. That helps on the cross sells. I pull all my monolines, which each month we do that. So just trying to make sure we're constantly staying on top of those. One big one for life insurance is I pull a birthday list. If you guys haven't been doing that, I feel when you're around urgency of something, people pull the trigger. So I personally keep a hot list of every client I've talked to in life. And what I'll do is I'll touch base with them, but the birthday list, I do two things. One, I text them and tell them happy birthday personally. But then I put in a little tagline on that text of, hey, this is the one time a year I can make you younger. If you have ever thought about life insurance, now's the time to pull the trigger. And then more often than not, I'll get a text back, yeah, I need to get that going. And then even the hot list I have, as we all know, you'll have people you buck for a year and they just keep dragging their feet. But when you use that birthday list with them, they'll usually pull that trigger if you can lock in that year. So I personally do a birthday list to help. And again, it's another touch, if anything. I talked about those calendars and tickets I put on. I try to randomly, like I mentioned, the power hour, just check in with clients. We send out thank you cards and just notes throughout the year, just as extra touches, just trying to make sure they're not leaving us for someone else. And then I'm doing the Barry Runt training. Some of you guys might be on there, different vocabularies, and he says not to do this, which I've done it for a year, but we ask everybody where their life insurance is at. And even on when I send out insurance cards, I'll email those out because we get lots of asks for those. At the very bottom, I put a little PS line. Reach out to me if you need me to review your life insurance plan. So we're just trying to put that in front of them constantly. So that way, when they do have that need, they call us. That's probably the big ones of what I'm doing on the cross-sell. And then everybody gets a fact finder, so you can call it the big picture is what I go through, but it's really just trying to find out where their stuff is at, what their assets are. I try to help them with a net worth value because that helps me sell more umbrella policies. And then also just kind of backs into the life insurance side. One thing I'm going to start doing again, I'll give this tip to you guys. It went away for a while. What I mean by that is I used to carry around $100,000 single premium whole life illustration. And what I do is any review I'm going on, I would print that off in their name and I'd soft sell it. And I would show them this $100,000 single premium. And I'd say, hey, this isn't for you. So it pulls that off the table. And they're like, some of them would be like, wait a minute, I kind of want this. But then I'd say, this is more for your parents or grandparents. And what it is if you know them having a $100,000 CD, this is a tool that can help gain them a little higher interest than a CD would return them in. But the bigger benefit is it doubles the inheritance. So usually if you find that 50 to 60-year-old, that 100,000 will jump to 200 as a death benefit. So the bank can't do that. And then usually by that third year, they've got all their money back. Our old single premiums, you had everything back in 2 years. And then they took that and kind of changed it. It was like 8 or 9 years on an illustration. So I got away from that. But why I used to do that is it would get the conversation going. Because I had a lot of people that would say, don't talk to me about life insurance. And when they started looking at an inheritance or a CD, I had one client say, hey, we don't have 100,000, but we have 70,000. Can we do that? And so I ended up writing to $35,000 single premiums on something like that. So that was another thing I was doing that I'll probably bring back in.
That's awesome. And I think their single premiums a lot more attractive. I know there's a little bit of a time there that it looked like it slowed down. Well, the last few that I've seen are looking really strong from a cash accumulation spot. We have a couple questions in there, kind of, can you break down your team, kind of what their roles are within it? And then we'll go on to the next question.
Sure. So I have two staff members now. I'm looking to hire here in the near future, another one or two. So Michelle was my first hire. She was part-time. I shared her at first with a few other staff members, then ended up hiring her full-time. She's really the gatekeeper. So she protects myself. And then I have another staff member, Jenny. So Michelle's first on the phone. And like I said, she's the one that does all the billing things. When we had this AMP challenge that we just had, we pretty much pulled her off all duties, and for 2 hours a day, she just went through that list. I know some agents haven't done anything, just let the home office go through it. Again, we physically called every client, helped them get transitioned so that it wasn't a mess, because that was a huge frustration. So Michelle took care of all that. She handles all my billing, any minor changes that come in with adding vehicles, taking them off, binders, those kinds of things, bank and mortgage changes, all those she'll take care of. That's her deal. And then I have Jenny, she's more the office manager, but anything more complicated, she'll take care of. She's more my internal sales. So any referrals we get, Michelle can gather information, but Jenny's really the one that's gonna put the quotes together and present to the client. And then she does do some car reviews as well. Anything that's complicated, trying to make sure drivers are rated right and things we need to manipulate, she's the one that's on that. And then I handle more the commercial side, farm, and then any financials or life stuff is when I get pulled in. I still quote the PNC, but mainly anything internally that's coming in, any referrals or leads, those all go to Jenny. And then for, I guess, kind of rules, you guys may do this in your Outlook, but we create a bunch of rules in Outlook. So if it says lead, binder, anything, certain words, those two get copies of everything, even right back. So I'm not dealing with a lot of that stuff. It goes in my inbox, but they're usually grabbing all that stuff and working on it.
No, that's awesome. With the advancement of technology, we have a question in the chat, but I love it. I'm a huge advocate of using AI. But have you found AI useful within your business?
I have not tackled too much of that yet. It is an area I probably need to start utilizing more. It is a fear of mine too, of us losing due to AI coming.
Yeah, I think that, we had a leadership conference last year we went to, and we had an AI specialist get up and speak. And the one thing AI can't do is it cannot replace you. That's the beauty, is the relationship side of what you're doing, how you run your business, I think is fairly safeguarded. But I think AI is great.
And that's one reason, Josh, you mentioned that, but I'm trying to do more virtual, not trying to do more virtual, but virtual meetings are a big thing. Clients like it. And I'd say COVID helped jumpstart me on that. I'm not the most tech savvy, but I'm always trying to figure ways to separate us from the AI and the guy going progressive world. And I feel if you're at least doing a Zoom or Teams type meeting with a client, they get to see you, and then we can share screens. I feel that's more personal than just a phone call.
So how is it that you're fishing for clients, like when you're looking at growing?
So I kind of put a thing in for my own self. I don't know if you guys have heard of hooks, lines, nets, and spearfishing. That's kind of how I look at my business. So hooks and lines are basically your community involvement. So I would say like the BNI, the chambers, all that networking stuff. That's those Popeyes, those kinds of things that I'm doing. Those are all the hooks and lines. And I feel you need to practice that every day. That's something I focus on. The nets I'm probably not the best on, but that would be like your social media, ads. You kind of really never know what you're going to get when you do net prospecting. Something I am focusing on though is the Google reviews. So every client, we have a good report, even if they're leaving and they're having a hard time, like, hey, we don't really want to leave you. We'll even send them a Google review. Like, hey, can you just send us one on the way out? We're trying to build up that. We're getting more and more Google reviews coming in just by having that, us being at the top of our little area. But that's more those nets. And then spearfishing, that's the commercial clients, that hot list, the birthday list that I do. I'm just targeting people I want to network with. So one thing I bummed, you guys remember the calendars, but I sent calendars to all of our current clients, but I took it a little further. So if there was, again, an HVAC company, an electrician, a plumber, or even a mortgage broker's office, that's kind of how I got Ordean Team, is I went and custom designed their logo or their name on the calendar, and I'd go drop off a handful of those. It's like the mortgage broker Ordean Teams, their processors loved it. And so they even to this day have tore off certain pictures out of that calendar and have hung in their office because it says Ordean Team like on the back of a boat and other things that they've saved. But doing that helped me get by some of those gatekeepers, just doing those gifts. And so now what I've been doing is sometimes I'll do a Cutco knife to just swing by and do that as a little gift for spec I'm trying to get. Just marketing, but then targeting those specifics. I don't know if that helps answer that question, but
No, I think it's great. I think it's good to have that kind of set of strategy. We have another question in there, and I definitely can respect that. I remember my BNI days, but it was, how do you balance the demand of BNI, sending leads to these members, plus networking and getting referrals in other ways? Like, how do you balance that out? I know, like the app now, you're green or yellow or red on different tasks, whether it's CE.
That's good.
Referrals.
I try not to do it. I keep it simple. I time block a lot of stuff. So like my marketing or Popeyes, I may not even have an appointment somewhere, but I'll have it blocked for, that's my time to go run around to a Popeye somewhere. But I do have a 1-to-1 every week, and it's just time blocked. So I try to do that 1-to-1 once a week with the member, just so I have that for my little score. And then usually that's turned into some type of referral too from that. And then just asking clients, I try to put them in front of like, hey, these are the individuals I work with. Do you need any of these services? Which is, again, adds value to the client. So we get a lot of clients calling back saying, hey, didn't you have a painter that you knew? Or, hey, I need a plumber. So just kind of presenting that to clients too, like, hey, I work with a bunch of professionals. Here's, the categories that are in there. Do any of these interest you, or do you have a need for any of them? And they may say no at this time, but then they'll call me back, which again is another touch, but it's a help for the BNI group.
And how do you find time to kind of continue to network to others, outside of BNI, the other mortgage brokers or CPAs that you're working with?
Just time blocking that again, just making a commitment. And again, like I said, being consistent. So there's times that we all get busy. So, I might have it on my calendar every single week, and maybe that whole month I didn't get out to see the mortgage brokers. But that's where I'll fall short. It's like, man, we're slowing down, and then I'll make a point to run out, and then that same week I'll get a referral. So I just say being consistent of popping out, even if you're trying to get them, if you just drop off a little candy basket thing or something with your name, eventually, if you're doing it consistently, somebody's going to need something, and then you can start building a relationship with them. But you got to stay consistent every week with that stuff for every other week.
And we had a question on the Cutco knives. Are you putting country branding on there? I know you're delivering for the mortgage broker.
Yes.
To those clients when you do the pictures.
Yeah, so I have my country's logo and then like our office phone number on it. Pretty simple. As a marketing piece.
No, I never like that because you kind of refer to that. It's something that you're not going to get rid of. You're probably going to hold on to that knife forever.
Yes.
So it's going to stay with that client kind of wherever they go, and it's going to come out, and their friends are going to see it. It's going to.
You guys can do what you want. I'm a financial advisor per se, so I think we can gift $100. Those little spreader knives, they're the cheapest. I think they're about $80 engraved. So if you get that $50 or $25 thing, but it is a marketing piece, so you'd have to work with your compliance, I guess. But as far as like a CPA told me, as long as we're marketing, that kind of removes some of those dollars too. And it is country branding. It's not really a gift, I would say, but if you count it more as marketing, but co-op won't help with that. I've tried fighting that one a little bit.
And then it says another question was, you said you were planning on hiring a third person. What duties and tasks would they help or take on?
Actually, we needed more. So there's two staff members I'm needing. I need an outside salesperson. So kind of picking on Jenny, she's more our internal. So anybody who's referred to us, if I'm in BNI and I get a referral, I'll pass that to her to do the quote. I may present it, but Jenny will put it all together for me. So she's really our internal sales. I need another me out there doing another BNI chapter or getting more COIs. That's where I'm at now, but we're also loaded with service. So I need a service staff member coming in. Like for all these contractors I'm working with, I'm doing tons of certs every day. So just offloading. And again, I take care of a lot of those because some of those are complicated, but having a staff member that can maybe help offload some of that stuff. So I really need a service person to help offload, even Jenny, so she can do more sales, and then another me running around.
I think that building out a strong team, it's an ever evolving, I think especially as we're looking at trying to continually outgrow a grid and net growth being a big one. I think expanding the team is always going to be kind of an evolving space. I have a question because this is affecting obviously you talked earlier about the Washington letter, but I'm sure everybody on this call in different states is going through different struggle points. How did you kind of adapt, and how did you found out the letters are going out? They kind of look this way, like we're leaving the market space, and obviously with the current climate of a lot of insurance companies throughout the nation shutting down, how did your team decide how you're going to deal with those struggles?
We, I kind of found out the letter was going out, but kind of being lazy, we didn't really jump on it. And so I probably lost a dozen clients and good clients, and some of them we got back. So they jumped and then came right back. But mainly they left. The only reason is they really thought they were getting dropped. And so then they went and shopped. And as we all know, we're not maybe the most competitive. So the minute someone shops, they're gone. And so we're trying to prevent that. So what we're doing now is we pull a list off that Tableau of everybody who's getting converted. And we're trying to hit that before those letters go out. And then every car meeting, I've got clients that, aren't renewing till December. And so on the car reviews, everybody we're talking to, we're having those conversations too of, hey, you're going to get this nasty grant letter. You'll probably forget, but just call us. You're not getting dropped. We're actually moving. And then I kind of make it a positive that we're moving to that new system, and there are some benefits that are coming. And then we're trying to also be proactive with that. So you guys probably seen that too, but something we've noticed is some of these conversions aren't going as smooth as possible. So we're seeing some get really inflated, where they're maybe taking a custom home and putting it as a premium home. And I had one client, their home is a $900,000 home, but it went to like 1.4 million on a rebuild. And it jacked their premium from say $3,000 up to like $7,000 or $8,000. And that client probably wouldn't have batted, I would have paid it, but they were stoked that we called them and gave them a heads up and went through. So anything that's a drastic change up or down, we're just making sure those, again, being proactive. That's Jenny and Michelle grabbing those, and we're all looking at those to make sure we're on top of it before client gets all freaked out.
No, I think it's important to jump in front of it the best you can. I know that a lot of agents have struggled with things like that. As the company's evolving, there's definitely going to be some stuff that are gonna struggle a little bit and make it difficult on the clients.
And system changes too. I know we're coming to a new CRM system too, which is another big change.
But the one thing I can say about your team, it's just awesome that you guys are finding what can we do. I think that's one of the biggest things that makes an agency successful is really finding those areas where can we make a difference for our clients that can maybe potentially stop them from the shopping initially. So I think that's awesome. Well, I think we are right about at the end. Jason, do you have any closing remarks? I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you have any last minute questions, please go ahead and throw it in.
No, I just go back to that positive side because I've been there too. Our company's gone through so many changes, but even talking with all these other agents from different companies, they're all going through it too. But I'd say just trying to keep that positive mindset. I know the staff, first staff, even they're dealing with it. So I constantly, we'll do like a Friday lunch. I'll bring them coffees here and there, just trying to keep that positive atmosphere and keep their spirits up too, because they're dealing with just as much blunt as I am. But I think keeping that positive attitude, just that energy, I think transitions to clients too. I think when we're down, they feel it.
That's there. And then is your staff full time?
Yeah, both staff members are full time. I have Jenny start at 8 in the morning, and not Jenny, Michelle, she starts from 8 to 4, and then Jenny comes in about 9 to 5. So we kind of stagger it a little bit, but.
Well, awesome. Well, I think that's time there. I want to thank everybody for taking an hour with us here this week. I wish you guys all the best. Jason, thank you so much for